The twin suns hung low in the orange sky as the grand market of Orvan 6 buzzed with life. Alien traders shouted over each other, selling rare spices, glowing crystals, robot pets, and tiny creatures in cages. People from 100 worlds passed, by some tall, some with scales, others glowing softly in the light, and in the middle of it all walked a small figure. She was tiny, no taller than a child. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes too big for her face and her white hair messy with dirt and dust. She wore no shoes. Her clothes were torn and too thin for the chill in the air. Her name was Ziri. She moved carefully between stalls, her stomach growling. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. No one noticed her. No one cared. She was just another orphan, another alien street kid, alone and ignored. Then she saw it, a basket of fruit. Purple glow fruits, soft and warm, lying close to the edge of a vendor's table. She looked around. The vendor was busy arguing with a customer. Ziri reached out with shaky fingers and grabbed one. But before she could take a bite, "Stop, thief!" a loud voice echoed through the market. Everything froze. Shoppers turned. Traders stopped talking. Galactic cops, tall, armored, and armed, rushed in. Their uniforms were dark red with silver badges. They surrounded the tiny girl in seconds. Their boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor as they pointed stunners at her. Ziri dropped the fruit. Her hands shot up. She shook from head to toe. "I was hungry," she said in a soft voice. "Please," one of the cops laughed. "That's what they all say." Another stepped forward and grabbed her arm roughly. She yelped. Violation 369, theft in a Level 1 trade zone. Punishment, immediate off-world relocation or labor trial. People in the crowd watched, but no one stepped forward. No one helped, except one man. A quiet man stood near a repair stall watching the scene. His clothes were covered in grease. His hands were dirty from fixing engines. A human, maybe the only one in this part of the galaxy. His name was Ryan Holt. He had seen everything. He saw the girl's fear. He saw the fruit in her hand, still untouched. He saw the cold, cruel way the cops held her. Ryan stepped out of his stall and walked toward the group. "Let her go," he said. The lead officer turned, annoyed. "This isn't your concern, human." "She's a kid," Ryan said. "And that fruit costs what, 1 credit? She broke the law. She was hungry." Ziri looked up at him with wide eyes. She had never seen a human before. He didn't glow or have sharp teeth, but there was something strong in his eyes. Something different. The officer pushed Ziri forward. "Step away or face obstruction charges." Ryan didn't move. Instead, he raised his wrist. His comm bracelet flashed. "I invoke Galactic Protection Code 7.3. The crowd gasped. The officers froze. That law was old, rare, but it still existed. Under Code 7.3, any sentient being under the age of maturity could be claimed under emergency protection by a registered citizen, if immediate danger was present, and no guardian claimed them. "She's mine now," Ryan said calmly. "Under law." The officer narrowed his eyes. "You serious?" "I have the right. Scan me." A low beep came from Ryan's bracelet. His ID flashed. His citizenship was clean, his trade licenses valid, his emergency adoption code accepted. The cops backed off slowly. The officer let go of Ziri's arm. She stumbled toward Ryan. He held out a hand, not to grab, not to force, just open, gentle. She stared at it for a second. Then slowly she took it. "You'll regret this," the officer muttered. "That girl's trouble." "Then it's my trouble now," Ryan said. The cops walked away, angry. The crowd began to move again. Some looked surprised. Others whispered, but Ryan didn't care. He looked down at the girl beside him. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked unsure for a moment, then said softly, "Ziri." "All right, Ziri. Let's get you something real to eat." He led her away, hand still in hers. Behind them, a strange alien in a black cloak watched from a distance. He had red eyes and a silver implant in his neck. He spoke into a hidden device. Target has been claimed by a human. Orders? A cold voice replied. Observe. The girl must not escape. She is more valuable than they know. Ryan Holt didn't know what he had just started. After walking out of the market with the tiny alien girl holding his hand, he felt dozens of eyes on his back. Some were curious, others dangerous. He could feel the weight of it. But Ziri walked quietly beside him, still holding his fingers tightly. Her steps were soft, but her breathing was fast, like she still expected someone to grab her again. The street ahead led into the repair zone, where fewer people passed. Neon signs flickered over quiet shops. Ryan's workshop sat at the end, squeezed between two towering scrap heaps. As they entered, the door closed behind them with a hiss. Ziri looked around, confused. She had never seen a place like this. Wires hung from the ceiling. Machines blinked and beeped. A broken transport engine rested on a bench. A sleeping robot dog twitched in the corner. Rian took off his tool belt and tossed it onto a table. You can sit wherever, he said softly. Nobody's gonna touch you here. Ziri stood still. Her wide alien eyes scanned the room like she expected a trap. Are you gonna sell me? She whispered. Ryan stopped mid-step. He turned around slowly. No, he said. Why would you ask that? Ziri didn't answer. She just hugged her thin arms around her chest. Because that's what others do. A deep silence filled the workshop. Ryan knelt in front of her. I'm not like others. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a small heat blanket, wrapping it around her gently. She flinched at first, but then relaxed. Her hands clutched the warmth like it was treasure. A soft rumble came from her stomach. Ryan smiled and walked over to the heating unit. A few moments later, he returned with a hot cup and a bowl of synth-grain porridge. Ziri hesitated, then sat on the floor and started eating like she hadn't tasted food in weeks. As she ate, Ryan sat beside her, thinking, what had he done? Had invoked a forgotten galactic law in front of cops. That alone would draw attention. But what bothered him more was Ziri herself. Why were galactic cops treating a little orphan girl like a major threat? He opened his terminal and typed quickly. Galactic Code 7.3. Temporary Protective Claim. Species. Unknown. The system couldn't identify her species. That was rare. Then the system flashed something strange. Warning. Class Red Scan. Block detected. Genetic profile locked by Royal Encryption protocols. Ryan's eyes widened. Royal Encryption? He looked over at Ziri. Her small body was now curled up in the blanket, the empty food bowl beside her. She was already asleep. Her face looked calm now, peaceful, but inside her blood, there was a secret. Ryan leaned back in his chair, running, a hand through his hair. He wasn't just protecting a hungry kid. He had stepped into something much bigger. Suddenly, a loud knock echoed at the door. Ryan stood up, alert. The knock came again, harder this time. He pressed a small screen near the door, activating the outside cam. A single galactic officer stood there, the same one who had tried to arrest Ziri. His face looked angry, tired, but calm. Ryan opened the door halfway. Came to arrest me already? Ryan asked. The officer didn't laugh. You think you saved her, the officer said, but you don't know what she is. Ryan's face hardened. She's a child. The officer stepped closer. She's not just any child. That girl's being hunted across 5 systems. There's a bounty on her head bigger than most pirate captains. You're playing with fire, human. Ryan didn't blink. So why didn't you take her then? The officer looked away. Because you used the law, and because I don't want her dead either. That surprised Ryan. I'm giving you a chance, the officer continued. Turn her over to me. Quietly, no one has to know. Ryan narrowed his eyes. Let me show you something. He stepped back and pointed towards Ziri, who was still asleep inside. She's not a criminal. She's not a weapon. She's just a scared little girl who thinks everyone wants to sell her. The officer didn't speak for a moment. His expression softened just slightly. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away. But before leaving, he looked back once. "You better run," he said, "because others won't knock first." As the door closed again, Rian stood in silence. He now had proof. Ziri wasn't just special. She was dangerous to someone very powerful. Someone wanted her locked away. Or worse. And now, by protecting her, he had made himself their enemy. Ryan didn't sleep that night. He sat near his workbench watching the door, tools laid out like weapons, just in case. His plasma cutter was charged. His bolt launcher was ready. Outside, the dusty wind howled between the scrap piles, and just a few meters away, the tiny alien girl slept under an old thermal blanket. Ziri breathed slowly. Her face twitched in sleep as if haunted by memories. Now and then she whispered strange words, soft, sharp, and old. Not in Galactic standard, not even in trade tongue. Something ancient. Ryan quietly turned on his translator chip. He recorded the words. Then he sent the audio file to his old contact, Dreve, a codebreaker who once worked for the Galactic Archives. A few minutes later, he received a reply. "Ryan, where did you get this language? This is pre-Empire dialect, possibly royal class, also encrypted. This child isn't just special, she's protected by blood code. Be careful, you're being watched." Ryan's heart sank. He glanced at the window. It was cracked open slightly, and he could feel it. Someone had been here. He rushed to the door and scanned the outer perimeter. Nothing. No footprints. No noise. But something was off. He returned inside and saw Ziri sitting up, eyes wide. She wasn't scared. She was alert. "What's wrong?" Ryan asked gently. Ziri stared toward the wall. "He was here." "Who?" She didn't answer. But her tiny hands curled into fists. Ryan slowly sat beside her. "You know who's chasing you, don't you?" Ziri stayed quiet. Then she nodded. "They wore black. Always black. Their faces are covered. Their voices sound like machines. They took my sister." Rian blinked. "You have a sister?" "I had," she whispered. "They said she was too powerful. They took her first. They came for me next." Rian's chest tightened. She wasn't just a child. She was targeted. Someone didn't want her alive. "I'll keep you safe," Ryan said without thinking. Ziri looked at him. "No one can protect me," she whispered. "They always find me." Ryan stood and walked to a tall cabinet. He opened it and pulled out a small round object, a mirror ball drone, an old model but still useful. He handed it to Ziri. "This'll follow you and keep a 360 record. Anything gets close, it warns me. Think of it like a floating friend." Ziri stared at it like it was magic. The drone blinked and hovered into the air, circling her like a tiny star. For the first time, a small smile touched her lips. The next morning, Ryan stepped outside to get parts from a nearby trader. Ziri stayed inside with the drone. The streets were quiet, too quiet. The scrap merchant, a thick alien named Kotur, waved him over. "You got trouble, human," Kotur grunted. "3 strangers asked for you last night. All black cloaks, no faces. Did they say what they wanted? They said you stole something important." Ryan frowned. "She's not a thing." Kotur blinked. "She?" Ryan didn't reply. He just grabbed his parts and rushed back, but when he opened the door to his workshop, the lights were off. Ziri was gone. "Ziri!" he shouted. No answer. The drone sat on the floor, blinking rapidly. Alert mode. Ryan ran to the back and scanned the data from the drone. She didn't leave. She hid. A sudden movement in the shadows caught his eye. Under the workbench, behind the engine pile. He crouched down. Ziri stared back at him, silent, eyes glowing faintly. "They're close," she whispered. "I heard them whispering." "You did good," Ryan said. "But you don't have to hide alone anymore." He offered his hand again. This time she didn't hesitate. She reached out, and her skin felt warm, no longer cold, no longer shaking. That night, Ryan reinforced every door, activated auto sensors, and reprogrammed his robot dog Max to patrol in guard mode. Ziri sat near the workbench, holding the drone like a toy. "I remember a place," she said quietly. "Green trees, water, a voice. Used to sing." Rian looked up. "Your home?" She nodded. "Before the fire, before the ships came." "What happened?" She lowered her head. "They said, 'Royal blood must not mix.' I don't know what that means, but my mother told me to run, so I ran." Rian stood in silence. Ziri looked at him. "Are you really going to protect me, Rian?" He nodded. "Even if they come?" He nodded again. "Especially." "Then," Ziri stared for a long moment, then whispered, "Then I'll stay." Outside the shop, two shadows watched from a rooftop. "She's bonding with him," said one voice, deep and hollow. "That will make removal more difficult," replied the other. They both vanished into the night, but they left behind one whisper in the wind. Phase 2 begins at sunrise. The next morning, Ryan Holt didn't open his workshop. He bolted the doors, shut the lights, and blocked the front with scrap metal. He had one focus now: protect Ziri. But something had changed in her since last night. She stood quietly near the control table, her head tilted, listening to sounds no one else could hear. Her white hair moved slightly even when the air was still. Ryan noticed. "You okay?" he asked, tightening a panel on a broken engine. Ziri blinked, then slowly nodded. "I heard a voice." Ryan paused. "What kind of voice?" Ziri touched the side of her head. "Not with ears, inside like a signal. It's waking up." Ryan frowned. "Signal?" Before he could ask more, a loud bang shook the door. Then another. Ziri jumped. Ryan grabbed his shock rifle and rushed to the front window. Outside, 3 figures in black armor stood silently. No police badges, no markings, not lawmen, mercenaries. Ryan cursed under his breath. They didn't waste time. The door shook. Again, this time glowing red from a heat cutter. "We have to move," he said quickly, grabbing a duffel bag packed with emergency supplies. "I have a back exit, but we'll need cover." Ziri didn't move. Instead, her eyes glowed faintly blue. She raised one hand and the lights around the shop began to flicker. "What are you—" Ryan started, but Ziri stepped forward. "I can feel the machines," she said calmly. "They listen to me." Suddenly, every drone, bot, and old repair arm in the workshop powered on. Sparks flew, metal arms rose. The robot dog, Max, growled and moved toward the door like a guard beast. Then Ziri whispered something in that old language. Again, the machines moved. Together, like they understood her. Ryan stared. "You're controlling them?" Ziri's voice was soft. "Not control. They choose to help." Outside, the mercs broke through the front panel and rushed in, only to be met with a barrage of mechanical arms swinging pipes, spraying coolant, and sending shockwaves from the walls. The old workshop had become a machine army, fighting for the girl they once ignored. One merc screamed as a plasma burst hit his armor. Another was pulled into a coil loop and slammed into a wall. Ryan grabbed Ziri's hand and ran toward the back door. "We don't have long." They escaped into the alley behind the shop. Smoke rose from the front. The machines had slowed the enemy, but they wouldn't hold forever. Ryan led her down winding paths, through trash tunnels and closed cargo lots. Finally, they reached an abandoned shuttle garage. "I used to hide my scrap hauler here," he said. "Let's hope it still works." Ziri touched the old ship's hull. The lights flickered, then hummed. "She likes me," Ziri whispered. The shuttle door opened by itself. Inside, the ship powered up as if awakened from sleep. Ryan checked the controls. Fuel cells are weak, but enough to get off-world. Ziri looked at the stars beyond the skyport ceiling. "They'll follow." "I know," Ryan said, "but I have a few tricks left." Then, Ziri placed her small hand on the console. A soft blue pulse spread through the dashboard. What are you? Suddenly the map system opened up by itself. The screen flashed through layers of locked sectors, hidden coordinates, and ancient symbols. Ziri whispered, "This is where I need to go." Ryan stared at the location. It wasn't on any regular map. It was a forgotten world, long erased from records. Nibara. Ryan had only heard of it in myths, once called the Last Sanctuary, before the empires burned it from history. "Why there?" he asked. Ziri said nothing for a long time. Then, "Because that's where my mother died, and where my power was born." Just as the engines began to warm, a sharp alarm rang through the ship. They were being locked onto by a targeting beacon. Ryan yelled, "Buckle in," and jumped into the pilot seat. From above, a black hunter ship descended, sleek, fast, and deadly. Ziri clutched the armrest. Her fingers dug in. "I won't go back," she screamed. A wave of blue light burst from her chest, filling the cockpit. The hunter ship's systems glitched. Its engine sputtered. The lock-on broke, and Rian used the moment to launch. The shuttle shot upward, dodging lasers and breaking atmosphere. Stars filled the screen. They were free. For now. Ryan turned to look at her. Ziri's nose bled slightly, and her body shook. But she didn't fall. "What are you?" he asked softly. Ziri looked up. "I don't know yet," she whispered. "But they fear me, because I might be the last." The stars outside the shuttle window looked peaceful, but inside the small ship, silence had weight. Ryan sat at the control panel, piloting them through unknown space, but his eyes often moved toward the sleeping form beside him. Ziri was curled, in a blanket, her head resting on a crate. Her breath was soft now, but her body still trembled slightly. Whatever energy had blasted from her earlier, it had drained her. Rian hadn't seen power like that in years, not even from trained war scions. She was no normal alien girl. She was something ancient, something powerful, something feared. They had been flying for hours when the ship's nav system suddenly flashed. "Navara approaching. Classified zone. No known trade or life signals." The screen showed a blue-green planet covered in oceans, deep forests, and strange glowing rings circling the poles. Its orbit shimmered unnaturally, like it was wrapped in a layer of invisible glass. Rian frowned. "It's supposed to be a dead world." Ziri, now awake, whispered from behind him. "It's not dead. Just forgotten." She stood, still weak but more alert now. Her eyes glowed faintly. "My kind once lived there, before the Empire came." "You mean your people were from this planet?" Ryan asked. "No," she said softly. "My mother was. She told me. This is where the first voice began." "The first voice?" Ziri placed her hand on the dashboard. "You'll understand when we land." The shuttle broke through Nivara's strange orbit with a sound like cracking glass. Rian tightened his grip on the controls. The ship shook but didn't fall apart. Once inside, the storm cleared. What lay beneath stunned him. Forests of silver trees reached into the sky. Rivers sparkled with soft light. Floating stones circled tall spires, half buried in moss. It looked untouched for 1,000 years. They landed in a quiet valley where tall stone statues stood like guardians. Ziri stepped out of the ship and inhaled deeply. She smiled, really smiled, for the first time. "I remember this air." They walked into the ruins nearby. Everything was silent, but not dead. Vines glowed faintly. Stones whispered in the wind. "This was a sanctuary," Ziri said. "A place where voices lived." Ryan looked around. "Voices?" Ziri turned to him. "In my world, some are born with what your people call tech minds. They can talk to machines, feel energy, bend signals. But few are born with the true voice. My mother had it. My sister, too. And maybe me." She touched a wall. It pulsed gently. Ryan stepped back. "You're saying you were born to control technology?" Ziri shook her head. "Not control. Connect. Machines are not tools to us. They're listeners, partners, even protectors. But the Empire didn't like that. Because they couldn't. Control you, Ryan guessed. Ziri nodded slowly. They destroyed our kind, erased our name, and now they hunt the last of us. Suddenly a deep hum filled the ruins. Lights came alive in the walls. Symbols moved like liquid. A large stone disc at the center of the ruins began to spin slowly. Rian pulled his weapon. Is that supposed to happen? Ziri stepped forward. Calm. She knows I'm here. Ryan blinked. She? Ziri placed her hand on the spinning stone. A voice echoed around them. Not loud, not harsh, but everywhere. Ziri, daughter of Elia, you have returned. Ryan spun around. Who said that? Ziri smiled faintly. This place, this world. She was built to speak. The stone lifted slightly, floating in the air. A glowing image appeared above it. A woman with silver eyes and a long cloak. Ziri's mother. If you hear this, it means you survived. It means the fire didn't take you. My daughter, I am gone. But you must know, your blood holds the last pattern, the last voice. Ziri froze. Tears filled her eyes. They will come for you, not for revenge, but for what you carry. You are the key to restarting the old network. You are the code. The Empire fears what you can awaken. The image faded. Silence fell again. Ziri looked down at her shaking hands. I didn't know. Ryan stepped closer. Then that bounty, it's not just because you're rare. It's because you're dangerous to their control. Ziri nodded. I could rebuild everything they destroyed. Just then, a sharp beep came from Ryan's comm device. He looked down. His eyes widened, a tracking signal. He swore under his breath. They found us. Up in orbit, a black fleet exited warp. Inside the lead ship, a masked commander stared at a blinking red light on the map. Prepare descent, he said. The voice must not leave the surface. Back on Nivara, Ziri turned to Ryan. I'm done running, she said. If I'm the last, then I will fight. Ryan loaded his weapon and smiled slightly. Good, because I'm tired of running too. The wind on Nivara grew still, as if the very world was holding its breath. In the ruins, Ryan tightened the straps on his utility vest. He checked his bolt rifle, powered up his wrist shield, and glanced at the skies. Dark clouds weren't natural, they were ships. Ziri stood barefoot on the glowing stone circle, her white hair flowing, her skin lit by the ruin's soft blue light. But her small face was serious now. No fear, no tremble. She had changed. Rian could feel it. Ziri, he said softly. We can still run. She turned to him. They'll never stop chasing me, so I'll stop them first. High above, a sleek black cruiser descended, its engines silent like a hunter in the night. The cloaked commander stood inside, flanked by soldiers in black armor. Target identified, said one soldier. The commander's voice was cold. Alive if possible, but eliminate the human. Back on the ground, the sky cracked open. 3 dropships slammed down near the ruins. Troops spilled out, fast, trained, armed. They moved toward the sanctuary with machines that sniffed for energy. One of them stopped suddenly. Sir, the air. Here. It's responding. The ground shook lightly beneath their boots. Ziri opened her eyes. They're coming. Ryan raised his weapon. Then we fight. But Ziri didn't move toward cover. She stepped into the center of the ancient circle. I don't need to run anymore, she whispered. She closed her eyes. The stone beneath her feet began to pulse. Lights in the trees shimmered. The ground itself hummed. Then, a sound. Soft. Beautiful. Impossible to describe. It wasn't a scream, it wasn't a blast, it was a song, a living sound that came from her mouth, and from the ruins, and from every machine around them. The troopers raised their weapons, but the ruins moved. ancient. Towers rose from the earth. Floating shards formed walls. Silver trees bent, their roots grabbing the attacker's legs. One soldier shouted, "She's activating the old network." Too late. Ziri's voice awakened the world. Machines that had slept for centuries came to life. Long-buried defense orbs spun up and began to fire blue beams that stunned the enemy without killing. Rian blinked in awe. She's commanding the entire planet. But then, boom! A sonic bomb hit the edge of the ruins. Ziri fell to her knees, the song faltering. The commander walked through the smoke, his mask glowing red. "You're a danger to the galaxy, child," he said. "That voice of yours, it ends today." He raised a shock rod, but Ryan was faster. He charged, firing his bolt rifle. The commander dodged, and the two clashed in the center of the ruins. "You think you can protect her?" The masked man growled. "She's not alone anymore," Rian said through clenched teeth. As they fought, Ziri crawled toward the stone heart of the sanctuary. "I can't stop," she whispered. The machines flickered. Her signal was fading. Then she remembered something, her mother's words. "The true voice needs more than power. It needs a reason." Her reason. Ryan. He didn't know her. He didn't have to help. But he did. He stayed. He fought. For her. Ziri stood up, eyes glowing bright white. Voice calm. "I'm not your weapon." She raised her hand. "I am their hope." A shockwave burst from her. The commander froze mid-swing. His weapons melted. His helmet cracked, his soldiers screamed and fell, paralyzed by the song now bursting through the ruins like thunder and light. The planet joined her. Old machines rose. Satellite beams fired from the sky, targeting enemy ships. The Empire's fleet began to fall back. The commander stumbled, stunned. "You don't know what you've done." Ziri stepped forward, no longer a child, but something greater. "I just gave my people a voice again." Behind her, Ryan limped forward, bruised but alive. "You okay?" he asked. Ziri nodded, and then smiled. For the second time, the ruins glowed brightly once more, and far above the stars a message pulsed across forgotten satellites. "The voice lives. Nivara is rising." 3 suns rose slowly over the hills of Nivara. Where there was once silence and ruin, now stood glowing spires humming gently. Silver leaves swayed in harmony with a wind that no longer felt cold. Machines and nature moved together. Alive. At Mo. The center of it all sat Ziri, the once scared girl, now cloaked in soft energy light. She wasn't floating, yet she barely touched the ground. Around her, ancient bots floated like guardians, no longer weapons, but protectors of peace. And beside her stood Ryan Holt, grease still smudged on his jacket, one arm wrapped from a fractured wrist, but his eyes calm, watchful, proud. Nivara had changed. No, it had awakened. The song Ziri released days ago had echoed across forgotten satellites and broken relays. It reached old colonies, silent systems, even underground rebel groups. And in those dark corners of the galaxy, they listened, but not everyone was pleased. In a secret galactic chamber, shadowed voices whispered. The voice was meant to be erased. A human helped her survive. The people are watching now. We must not act yet. The Empire chose silence. For now. Back on Nivara, Ziri sat beside a pool of glowing water. It reflected the stars, even during daylight. Ryan approached, holding 2 steaming cups. "Found a way to heat these without the stove," he said, sitting beside her. She giggled softly. "You always fix things." He smiled. "It's what I do." They sat quietly for a moment, sipping, the strange tea brewed from silver root leaves. Ziri broke the silence. "Do you think my mother knew this would happen?" Ryan nodded. "She left you a world that remembered. That's more than most. She believed I could fix what they broke." "You already have." Ziri looked down. "Not alone. Ryan shrugged. Maybe not. But it was your voice, I just pointed the way. No, Ziri whispered. You listened. No one ever did before. That night, beings from across nearby systems arrived. Some in ships, others through old transport, beams. They didn't come with weapons. They came to witness. Aliens of every kind stood around the ruins. Some brought gifts, others brought knowledge, and one by one they asked her, "Can we stay?" Ziri looked at Ryan. He gave a small nod. She stepped forward, voice soft but strong. This world belongs to those who protect it, not rule it. The crowd listened and agreed. Over the next weeks, Nivara became a refuge for orphans, broken machines, rogue engineers, and exiled scholars. Rian built homes from the floating stones. Ziri rebuilt the network, an invisible connection between minds and machines that once made the stars feel small. She didn't call herself queen or ruler. She was the voice. One quiet evening, as stars blinked across the sky, Ziri and Ryan stood at the cliff above the valley. She looked older now, not in years but in spirit, stronger, still small, still soft-spoken, but now the world bent to hear her. Ryan, yeah? If you hadn't stopped them that day in the market, he placed a hand on her shoulder. You'd have stopped them eventually. She shook her head. No, I think I'd be gone, lost. Just a name. Maybe not even that. Then I'm glad I was there. I'm glad you saw me. Ryan looked out at the ships landing gently in the distance. I didn't see a criminal. I saw a hungry kid. She smiled. You saw more than that, he laughed. Maybe. Or maybe I just knew you were worth the trouble. Then Ziri whispered something in her native tongue. A soft breeze wrapped around them. The stars above pulsed. Machines nearby bowed slightly. What did you say? Ryan asked. I told the network, she said, smiling softly, that this human is part of me. Forever. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Hope that's a good thing. Ziri giggled. It means you're never alone, not while I'm alive. And far above, across galaxies, machines long thought dead blinked awake. Old codes updated, new beacons lit, because a little girl who once stole fruit had now given the galaxy back its heart, all because one human man stood up and said, "Let her go."